members of the place. We are here with the representative of KTDA Holding Board and Management and Board of Detain and Chelal, and seated here, and agreeing that the process of separation of satellite factories from mother factory will be done following the due process. The process of separation of account of satellite factories and the mother factory will proceed in the financial year 2024-2025, starting with the payment of green leaf and the second payment of that specific year. The satellite factory shall pay dividends to the mother factory based on the policy to be approved by the respective boards to compensate the shareholders of the mother factory on their investment. There will be established a committee to oversee the smooth implementation of the process by the end of the week to come up with a roadmap on separation of the two mother factories and the two satellite factories where the shareholders will not lose anything. The committee will keep on updating the farmers on the outcome of the process. The other factories interested in separation with the satellite factories shall follow the same process. The boards and management have agreed to work on the issue of tea quality to enhance the farmers' earnings. We urge the farmers to go back to their farms as their leaders undertake this process. I thank you. Because of these issues of separation from the mother, satellite and the mother. There are those who are for separation and others are against the separation. And that's why KTDA decided to meet with those respective board members to come and discuss the issue so that they go and cascade the same information to the farmers. And KTDA looked at the process which needs to be followed so that no farmer would lose anything, whether a shareholder who contributed in construction or coming up with this new factory, the satellite. And we have decided to have this committee which will look at all these issues and come up with a roadmap that will be followed in separating the two, where farmer will not lose anything. All the assets that were acquired, all the investments that were done, farmers will be compensated accordingly. So we urge farmers to know that KTDA and the board of respective factories have taken up this issue, and we request them to go back to their farm as we look at this, because it will have a process to be followed which will not take 1 day or a week or a month, and we will keep them updated on the process that is or that will be ongoing. So for this, we request them to go back and pluck their teeth. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Of Litain and Chelal and Tegat and Terol, whereby farmers of Tegat and Terol unanimously, it's like they agreed to separate. But now on separation, there are procedures that need to be followed, because it cannot be just a pronouncement in public that we need to separate. We need to look at, when you come to separate, we need to look at the investment that was initiated by the first shareholder. How much did he invest in satellite factory? How much can he be compensated back, so that now it is owned completely with the other factory? Or if there is nothing to compensate the farmer, what will be the process of compensating this farmer by the time the separation will occur? So the roadmap that we are coming up with, we are coming up with a roadmap that can be used or considered by any other factory or satellite that could decide to separate with the mother. So it is not only for these two, it is for any other that will decide to separate, so that because it is not a one-day process, It is a process that will make farmers know or get to understand that it is not an easy thing, but for them to disown completely from each other, we need to communicate that procedure or that process, whereby it can be followed by any other that wishes to separate with the mother.
So maybe I came in, that's honorable.
A mother factory maybe is a factory that initially was started by farmers collectively to process their tea, and an agitation may come because of increase in production or capacity of that specific factory not meeting or having the capacity to process the teas for all the farmers. So due to that increase in crop, farmers may decide to start another factory, and this second factory that is started by farmers is what we call a satellite. And the satellite factory is the same like a child factory that is owned by the mother factory. All management and all management are overseen by the mother factory, and even the leadership of that satellite is carried by the mother factory. So those farmers who deliver their teas in their new factory, so-called satellite, may feel or decide that they need to separate with the mother because the issue of delivering tea, processing, and other things are done separately. But there are other things in common that join them together, like they could be having some loans that they took to start this new factory, the so-called satellite, but or they may have invested in other things, and jointly these farmers, they own the two facilities or the two factories. So when it comes to the issue of separation, there needs to be a proper way of compensating the investors, the farmers. And in this is where we look at who invested, who contributed his money to construct this second factory. So for separation to happen, it requires the investor or the contributor, the shareholder of this factory, to be compensated fully whatever he invested in that factory, so that it's like now disowning from that same factory. So the agitation of separation is where farmers feel now they can stand on their own, operate their company on their own, and leave the mother. So, and in this is why we've seen agitation, because we've seen maybe the satellite is performing better than the mother, or the mother is supporting better than the satellite, and now the shareholders feel they can now stand on their own. So this is what we are calling satellite factory. This is a young one of a mother factory, and in this regard, this is why out of that agitation we met here to look at the better way or process of separating if there is that agitation, where no shareholder will lose whatever he or she invested in satellite factory. Yeah.
So in the whole process, we are looking at how many satellite factories?
According to the statement that has been issued by the chairman, just to clarify, we have said that the first step of separation that we'll have is to have the green leaf be paid to the satellite factory independently. Currently, what we have is like in the Liten farmers, they all have one code of paying green leaf. So what will be done, we will have the green leaf based code for Chelal tea farmers. So that will be the first step. And of course, we will also have, by the end of this the financial year that we are talking about, the current one, that is 2024-2025, which means the financial year that ends in June 2025, the payment of their green leaf now would be paid independently. In order for that to happen, then one of the things that must be done, that there is an investor, there is someone who constructed the factory, who is the shareholders of Liten Tea Factory. So they will have to be paid dividend to compensate those farmers because they have invested in that new factory. That is the first step of separation, which we call the separation of the accounts. So the two boards have agreed that they will proceed with the process of separation of the account, which by the end of this financial year, that is 30th June 2025, we will have them fully separated in terms of the account, and they are able to declare their own bonuses, and they are able to be paid separately as we have agreed. So that's the first step. The second step of separation, which is now the legal separation, then it will require a comprehensive step where we will have a consultant to be put in place who will value the assets of the satellite factory and see how they can now subscribe, the farmers of the satellite factory can subscribe to their own shares by paying off the farmers of the mother factory. So once they do that, that will be complete separation. At that point, they will have their own board of directors to do their own affairs independently. In the separation of the accounts, they will still have a common board to help them in management. But what will happen, the accounts will be different, and the farmers who are processing quality tea from any of the factories will now benefit directly out of the separation of the accounts. I think that is satisfactory.
Secretary, will that not be...
Which is a constitutional right. A constitutional right, which means that if you invest in owning any property, the only way you can separate from that property is that you must have adequate compensation. So that's a legal process. So if you go against that, then the farmers would may have a recourse against you. So that is why we are saying the process must be according to the law, according to the constitution, and according to the articles and memorandum of association of these particular factories. So there will be no conflict. All we need is to explain to the farmers. It's just like now you have your farm, and the government want to acquire your farm. There is a process of acquisition of that particular property. So that is the process we'll take the farmers through. So there will be no conflict because we will be able to articulate that process very well.
We need to consider one thing. Considering the investment doesn't mean that these farmers just invested with money from their pockets. It is could be these farmers borrowed money from a financier to construct this factory, and in case of separation, it is whether when we take farmers through this process, it is them now to decide whether they are comfortable to meet obligation of all the liabilities that they have, or they will wait until we finalize the process of clearing all the obligations, so that during separation there would be no liability to any of the factory, the satellite or the mother factory. So when they separate, you know that now you decided to go and take over or own all the costs that you will incur. So this is now the farmers who will own up by approving whatever the procedure or the roadmap it will be developed by various boards for farmers to own. If they decide or they think that they can reverse the procedure, if they don't want to incur this, then we can again proceed with the way we are. The only thing here we need is for farmer to understand the consequences of separation. That's what we want them to understand, because without understanding this, a farmer may think that the life may be very easy for them to stand on their own in a process of manufacturing, selling, and payment of their teas. So even the other cost of managing that factory, the cost of electricity, cost of labor, or operation costs, If the factory does not have a capacity to meet all those costs, then it means even that company may collapse or may not even go far. Because sometimes you find there are settlers that are doing better than the mother, and there are settlers that are doing worse, that they are being supported by mother. So when farmers decide to separate, they need to weigh. Are you able to sustain yourself alone, or you are dependent to your mother? So these are things that we are looking at, and that's why we have a roadmap, so that whoever or whichever factory may decide to separate in future may look at those or that process, and also know the consequence that may arise out of separation. I know there was information to the public that we had over 100 millions of unsold teas. And what I can say is that these teas were not sold because we did not do what we were required to do. It's because of increase in crop for this year, because of favorable weather and availability of fertilizer. And we take this one as an opportunity, not as a challenge, because it was a blessing from God. And what I can say, no farmer would complain because of being blessed. All of them are actually happy because whatever the rates of bonuses they are waiting to be pronounced for them to get this bonus, the payments, they are also happy because they increased their crop. So one thing I can say, we worked very hard to make sure those volumes were moved, and since then, by the time there was announcement that there were over 100 million kg, currently we have sold over 60 million. So we are talking of between 30 and 40 million unsold there, and I want to believe by end of this month, or to once mid next month, by the time we will be paying bonus, we'll have moved another significant volume. And what we see that most of these unsold tea were because of the issue of quality, poor quality, and we are addressing the issue of quality so much. And also today we also addressed this with these West of Rift directors, because again, as KTDA, we want to set a minimum standard quality that will be acceptable to KTDA. If certain quality will not be met, KTDA will not accept this tea, because we also want to sell what is demanded, or as per the preferences of our buyers. So that one I can tell you, KTDA has never had any issue in marketing or challenge of selling our teas. We are on it, and I can again assure our farmers, those who are plucking better quality teas, currently, like in the east, we are selling the teas for July, August, and we are in the month of September. So this is what we also want to focus, so that we also see the farmer in the west is equally treated in the same way as the farmer in the east. And we don't want to be speaking about east or west farmer. We want to be speaking about KTDA farmer. So once we work on quality, we will not be talking of volumes, we will not be talking of low prices or poor payments. We want actually even to improve and reduce the margin between the highly and lowly paid farmer. On the issue of bonuses, I can say that various respective director factories or bonds are meeting to declare their rates, and they are declaring according to how they have sold their teas. So every factory is declaring what they have sold and what they have remained after deducting all the costs. So, and no factory will pay like the other, the same with the other. So and the last factory will declare their bonus on Friday 20th, and that's when now as KTDA will know the much each factory will pay. As KTDA holding, we cannot tell which specific factory will pay what. So it is the respective factory boards which will declare what they will pay their farmers. Challenge with the there was no challenge with the minimum price as it was set, and after setting minimum price, that's when KTDA started realizing better prices. The challenge arose when this minimum price was set, but only implemented by KTDA. We have independent producers and other multinationals who did not implement this. And we have our regulator who regulates the entire tea industry, not only KTDA. And the challenge is when we issue any directive or we set any rule for tea industry, it is only not set for KTDA, because however we want to improve on quality of our tea for international for it to create demand to our international market, when it goes out there, it goes out there as a Kenyan product. It doesn't go out there only as a KTDA. And this is a challenge that we posed to our regulator, who is Tea Board of Kenya, to also regulate other stakeholders, the independent directors and the multinational, so that whatever we want to reform or to change in the tea industry may cut across. So the challenge arose when we set minimum price, others did not set, so we saw their teas selling at low prices. But now the government decided to waive for these minimum prices for teas that were older than 6 months. But we cannot say that it was entirely removed. It is there, and most of our teas now, after we improve our qualities, we see that it is actually fetching more than what is set. So the challenge was that the other players did not implement this. The other thing, also the issue of hawking, it is actually seriously affecting our business, because our farmers sometimes because of international because of economic situation may feel that they want to get their money very quickly, like hand to mouth. They want to sell and buy something or buy food. But now, if that other private buyer doesn't even worry about what he is buying, the quality he is buying, that is the same person who is affecting our market outside there in the international market. So what we are asking the government to work closely with us, the regulator, to also do their role, play their role as required, without favoring one side and the other side they are oppressing somebody. So what we want to say is that we want to produce that product that will go in the international market and even create a good name or the image of the country that it is being produced. So that's what I can say. But for this, I want to believe we are also pushing so hard to see that all players adhere to set standard and rules, so that we all be at the same path. Thank you.
Thank you.
And separate, get the mother factory separate the satellite. So it's a process. We are now going for stage 1. Stage 2 will come. Thank you. Thank you.